everybody, and bright blessings. I'm Lady Leeanna, 3rd degree Wiccan High Priestess of an Eclectic Order. I consider myself mainly a spiritualist, if you haven't been watching, and basically kind of go with the flow kind of gal. Okay, today's topic in Wicca for today is to do with the autumn, the fall equinox, and with appreciation to a good guy, a subscriber of mine named Greg, that suggested it. And thank you for the suggestion, Greg. I really appreciate it. Well, it's really brisk outside, and it seemed to be a very good time to actually do this because it's the coolest day I've seen all year, and it's only, what, like 7 days, 8 days away from the equinox. I believe it's like the 13th. But anyway, so a good day to do this in, and I would like to get this video out so that you have it, the knowledge and wisdom that is, you know, to take with you throughout this holiday season, this pagan holiday of ours. Well, basically, the autumn equinox, also called the fall equinox, cornucopia, and a few other good names, it's the witch's Thanksgiving. It's a time to give thanks. It's a time for feasting, packing on the poundage to make ready for the winter season so that you can stay warm. And that's exactly what we do. And it's quite funny considering that this pagan Thanksgiving is basically separated from the Christian Thanksgiving by over an entire month. But that's what it is, and it's the times when the leaves start turning to nice reds and browns and falling to the ground, you know, and well, the winter starts dying off so that it can rest and make ready to come back in the spring 3 months down the road. And I love this time. It makes me feel very energetic and alive, and all my energy comes just pouring out. You know, the summer, it seems to take a lot out of me. It's kind of reverse of other people. You know, I love the spring too, but the summer and all of that, it just really drains me so bad that by the time the winter comes, I'm just really feeling alive. I mean, I've been known to kick off my shoes, go dancing out in the center of the street in the middle of the night in front of my house, and enjoyed the hell out of it while I was doing it, not caring that there were God knows how many other houses around, you know, at the time, because at this point I was living in a small town. Nonetheless, you know, you're supposed to set up your altar with all kinds of nice reds and browns, and bring in a couple of candles of the same color. Cranberry, perhaps. That's a good color to add a little flash to your altar, a little color to it, you know, through the reds and browns. Your god and goddess statue are very important to have on your altar at this point, you know, because really there's a lot of attributions to this from or about them. And this is actually the season where the horn hunter, or the god, no matter in which aspect you actually call to him in, goes back underground for the while, as well as Demeter's daughter, Persephone, goes back underground for the season, and basically everything kind of dies out as Demeter mourns the loss of her daughter once again. There's a lot of good stories on that, and you really ought to look it up. I found it quite interesting, and it's always a good story. But, you know, it was at this time that actually Persephone was abducted by Hades, you know, in an agreement with Zeus behind Demeter's back. That Persephone was taken underground by him and basically seduced into a marriage with Hades. And, you know, a lot of people say a lot of different things about this. However, you know, it is what it is. I mean, as it was a long time ago. And, I mean, who can judge the God system, right? Nonetheless, a very good story. Something that you should really read up on during this season. Now, the autumn fall equinox, it's actually for that. People go inside and start spending a lot more of their time indoors rather than outdoors, which makes way for a lot of studying, a lot of reading, you know, eating and feasting, merriment with the family around the table. There are many other things that you can do in this season. You start crafting things with your hands. You start, you know, baking foods. You start doing a lot more of your talisman making, a lot of your charm making. And that's what I like to do throughout this season. That's how I spend my time. And, you know, this certain time that's ahead of us throughout the winter holidays, it's well noted for all of the major holiday seasons anyway, where you're surrounded by family, and that's the biggest thing you can do. But one of the most important things you can do, and that's what we should talk about, is taking nature hikes in the country where you're looking at the trees and their evolution, or actually their de-evolution, they're dying back and into the earth, you know, watching the leaves on the trees dying back, watching the animals becoming more brisk. You see them out and about more, you know, than what you usually would, because the animals with all that heavy fur really love their nature. They love to get out and eat. You know, they're full of energy and life. And you know, in all reality, that's what this holiday is about. Is about how Demeter mourns for her daughter's loss, Persephone, as it was the time she didn't know what had happened to Persephone at all. And throughout this time, everything starts dying out, because Demeter is a goddess of fertility and prosperity, you know, life within, you know, the herbs and leaves, the grass and trees, so forth, you know. And when she's in mourning, then everything dies back, coming out again yet in the earliest spring. And when her daughter actually applies herself back into the upper world, back into the earth, in the mid-realm, to be at one with nature and Demeter yet again, and life springs out from everything. And that's what we pay homage to. And Mabon was actually a holiday named after Mabon, the son of Modron. And this was a god who also would die once a year, so that his son could be reborn, you know, months after this. And that would be again in the spring and so forth. So a lot of good stories to do with these figures. You really should look that up. Mabon ap Modron. And also Demeter and Persephone. These are two major old stories from the old days that have a lot to do with autumn and fall equinox, and who you should pay homage to within this time. There are other deities, of course, that share the same attributes, and you can find them, look them up, but here are the two that are surpassing all the others in all the informations that you can find on the great information highway. Okay, you know, I myself am just trying to kick in with the technology of today. I'm not that good at it anyway, but I'm doing my best. Alright, so just hang with me, and we'll try to keep this shit flowing as good as we can. Alright, but yeah, your colors of like cranberry, your reddish browns, your lighter browns and mid browns. They're all very good. You know, your colors of the tree barks. Go with nature on it and the way that it would be. And that's another thing. A lot of people are starting to depress during this amount of time. But that's not what this season is about. Actually, I guess to some degree it is, on the note that everything is dying back. But you have to look at it in the most prosperous possible way. And that is that for everything that lives, it has to come from something. And through the ashes of that dies, or through the dust of that which is gone to dust, comes or springs forth life in the future. And that's the cycles of life. That is when we are within the Crone aspect of the Mother Goddess, Diane, and all other deities within the feminine aspect. The Crone is what we're drawing into when we hit autumn, the fall equinox. And, it's where we're pampering the earth because we're mourning the loss of everything that's out there, and we're actually celebrating all of the crops that we have pulled in by the same token, and we're actually storing them away. We're making jerky, we're jarring and canning things, we're freezing things in today's date, so that it's stoked away for the winter season. Now, what we're actually celebrating is, and it's like the pilgrims within Thanksgiving, you're actually sharing your food, and that's what you're celebrating is the sharing of the food, not the fact that you have it so much, because you're doing that throughout the year as you're bringing it in. And you do that likewise, but you're also celebrating the sharing of it, because throughout the season there are a lot of tribes or villages in the old days that were hitting hard times, while others were finding their stock plentiful, and they would actually do for others. And this was a celebratory act under the god and goddess. Now, while the god is going more underground at this time, the goddess is coming out more in full force, because around in the winter season, a lot of breeding would be going on, so that when spring hit, a lot of babies would be coming out, a lot of pregnancies would come to term, and so forth. Fertility is at its greatest, although the god is more in a dormant stage. The female is nursing her pregnancy and all of that throughout the winter season. And so, there's actually a lot to draw to an understanding in this, But I like to view the goddess in all of her forms at all different times of the year, because she comes through in the mother, the maiden, and the crone form throughout all the time anyway. I mean, birth in this day and age happens all the time. Whereas in the oldest days, there were certain laws and specifications that determined that you could not have sex 3 days before Sunday, or, and it narrowed it down to where, in actuality, you may only have sex to conceive a child, and only certain times a year, limiting the amount of time to just a handful in a year that you could actually breed with your wife, to mate with your wife. And it's a little bit crazy, but this is the way it was, mainly on the Christian side of things. However, find the energy inside of yourself throughout this season, because, although the earth is dying out, and this is the way it's always put, that the earth is dying back, the earth is dying for now, because we, the pagans, the Wiccans, all the shamans, we all come to the realization, we all know through our lessonry that although we die, it's not the end of life. It's just the beginning. We die so that we can come back more full of life, more full of knowledge and wisdom, bursting into activity and energy again. And me, I like to find the energy in the winter because you're not so hot and exhausted. You can do a lot more. You can do a lot more hiking. You can get out more. You can campfire it out. Go do some fire scrying at this point in time. Do some river scrying. All of this is really good. Use those elements to the best of your ability, because although the greens and so forth may be dying back, you still have the elements around you in everything. Now, this is the time of year to where you are entering a phase to where you have equal days and equal nights. That's what equinox actually means in its description, is that your nights are growing longer and your days are growing shorter to where they balance out to an equality. Equinox, hence the name. And so note it for this, and always pay homage to that.